Morning. Again, my name is Mike Suarez. I'm the chair of HART and the chair of Tampa City Council. What does the state of transit mean to all of us, and why are we here today? I boiled it down into one word, really. It's freedom. Freedom to choose, the freedom to go where you want to go, the freedom to have that opportunity to not only have some place to go, but a way to get there. Too many times we look at transportation as choices between one and another. Our board, and I'm very glad with our board being here, so many of them, we talk about choices and how we can expand those choices through our work at HART. It's not just about buses, it's about other things. Now let me tell you a little bit about our holistic approach to transportation. What we've tried to do is we've tried to find more partners to solve the problems that we have concerning our first mile, last mile situation, probably better than almost any transit system in the state. Our friends at PSTA are also trying to do this. And because of that, and because of our cooperation with them, I think we have shown a great aptitude for finding those partnerships. First of all, some of the things that we have done. We had a request for proposal for first mile, last mile. That included Lyft and Uber and Yellow Cab. Yellow Cab won that contract in order to provide an answer for some of the first mile, last mile questions that we have. Secondly, we've partnered with Coast Bike Share so that if you wanted to rent a bike, it makes it easier through HART, through our partnership with them and they through us, so that if you are going to ride a bike, you can do it, and you can also ride HART. Megabus. Megabus has been a great partner for us because they have provided the long distance transportation option that we don't necessarily need to have on our our local transit system. So as an example, Megabus has a contract with us at the Marion Transit Center, and you can buy a ticket to go onto a bus that will take you to South County using Megabus. That saves more space for our other buses to provide service in other parts of the county. And in addition, it ends what we call the deadhead hours, which is the amount of time it takes a bus to go back to the barn or our stations to get reloaded for more transit riders, our customers. And Red Coach has also been a great partner for us for the same reasons. Not only are we partnering with them, but they're paying us to park at our Marion Transit Center, not an insignificant amount of money in order for them to have access to our customers so that they become their customers. Those kind of smart transit choices that we have made as a board, that we keep reaching out to people and making HART, I think, one of the key agencies across the state. Now, what are some of the other things we've been trying to do? You may have heard about our regional fare card project. We just missed getting some federal dollars in order to have this regional fare card system so that if you are in Pinellas or in Pasco or in Manatee, if you wanted to ride a bus to go from one part of the Bay Area to another, you would use one card, one source. And we were trying to make sure that we were able to get some federal dollars to do that. Unfortunately, we fell short. We already had a backup plan that we were going to use some of our own dollars. It's going to take a little longer to implement because of the sources that we are looking at, but we will have that in place very soon. Also, and this is, I think, one of the most important things, is One Bus Away. One Bus Away is a great app that is on all of the platforms for your phone. One Bus Away will show you in real time where a bus is at any time. If you are here and if you looked at One Bus Away app, you would see where they're going east, west, north, and south. It's a great system to know that, and I know that in this humidity and this heat, you don't want to go out and wait at a bus stop too soon. It'll tell you if they're a minute early, a minute late, 5 minutes early, 5 minutes late, if it got canceled, anything like that. And that app is so important for where we live. Sometimes when we look at the solutions to problems of transit, we forget that the conditions of the environment have a lot to do with why people don't ride buses at certain times. It is hot and humid. All of us are in suits or in you know, we're dressed up a little bit differently than we would if we went to the beach. So when you go out there, you want to make sure that you're going to catch a bus and you're not going to be a puddle of sweat when that bus shows up. So One Bus Away is a great app that we've been able to do. And Metro Rapid is something that we created really just before or right after I got on the board. Metro Rapid is our solution for essentially putting together a bus rapid transit. It's not perfect, and it never will be until we get dedicated lanes so that those buses will act more like trains and less like buses in traffic. Once we get that, and we can work on that some more with some of our east-west routes, I think that we're going to have a better transit system. Lastly, and I will point this out to you in terms of how we feel about ourselves, with One Bus Away and with some of the transportation apps that we have actually partnered with and developed ourselves, we believe we're at the cutting edge in Florida. I was in Philadelphia recently, and I've been to other cities where I've taken public transit, and I will tell you that the freedom to be able to get on a bus or in a trolley or a streetcar or a subway is so great when you are staying in a downtown hotel. We want to make sure that people have that same choice and that same freedom. What that's going to mean for us in the future, because I think we're doing the best that we can with the budget that we have, we're going to have to ask for our state leaders, our county leaders, to help us with some of the additional dollars in order to expand the system and become more robust. Again, it's not about one solution. It is about partnering and being there, but it is, and it's very important that we understand that public dollars has always been a part of public transit in every part of the country, not just here. Everything that we do when it comes to roads and bridges is public dollars for public transit. Without that kind of investment, we can't grow economically. We cannot provide the kind of freedom that people want with their transit system and with their ability to live in one place and work in another, or vice versa. So I began my remarks by saying that freedom is important, and freedom is what we are aiming for, and something that we should aspire to. And I don't want us to be like the lyrics from the song that freedom is just another word for nothing else to lose. We can't have that. We have to start now, and we have to start thinking about how we are using our transit system, how we're expanding it under our leadership of our CEO, and how we're partnering with PSTA and all the other agencies that are around us already. But without that investment and without your support, we're not going to be able to provide the kind of freedom that our citizens deserve. Thank you. I'm also here to introduce our state senator. State Senator Jeff Brandis not only represents District 22, which may be 24, I think it's coming up if you win re-election, sir. He is also the chair of the Transportation Committee in the State Senate. He's been a great help to us, a great partner, and he's been a great state senator. Jeff Brandis.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be with you. Really want to kind of talk about just a couple things and kind of help you think through kind of where the future is on transportation. The two areas I really want to talk through are Uber and Lyft and where that's going, and the world of autonomous vehicles that we're entering into. In fact, I was noticing up here on the state of transit that looks often like pretty much like a Google car that they're coming out with. So that's right. That was totally on purpose, I can tell. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about what's going on inside the world of Uber and Lyft and what's going on with transportation network companies, because I think it's a really fascinating topic. What do you think about this? 2010, Uber gives its first ride ever. All right? Let's see, what was the date? It was December of 2015. It gave its first billion trips. So the 1 billionth trip was in December of 2015. 6 months later, it gave its second billion trip. Think about that growth from 0 to 1 billion in 5 years to another billion in 6 months. And what we're finding is when the Uber Pool product enters the market, which is their ride share, so essentially you're going from point A to point B, and you're willing to pick up other passengers along the way, looks a lot like mass transit, it becomes 40% of the trips in that market. And so it's revolutionizing transportation and transit as we know it. In fact, I really don't think of transportation anymore as a system. I think you have to think of transportation and transit as an organism, because we are living in the most exciting time since the pioneers met the Model T. Since horse and buggy to the Model T, that's what we're going to experience in our lives in the next few years. Because with the advent of this technology, which provides on-demand, point-to-point transportation, even in markets like Tampa, where it's still in a gray area, and we'll have to have a meaningful conversation about that as a community, about what we want our community to look like and the representation we want in the innovation economy as it relates to transportation network companies. That's ongoing here. We have to recognize that we have 100 million tourists that are entering this state every year. And they expect to get off of the airport and to open up that app and for there to be cars available. That is absolutely an expectation of our visitors, of my constituents, of our business owners, and our residents. And I believe truly that this technology is reducing DUIs in our community. I can't see how it wouldn't, right? And so I think there are multiple benefits to that, and it's why it's so exciting to watch this unfold in our community and watch the opportunities grow, because we're just kind of seeing the tip of the iceberg of what's going on. These companies haven't been around but for 6 years, and they're already transforming the world of transportation. And with them, you're going to see us begin to talk about a little bit about autonomous vehicles. So I have a real quick video I'd like to kind of pull up real quick. This is Elon Musk at the Recode conference a couple of months ago, and somebody asked him about the future of autonomous vehicles, and here's his answer.
Hi, I'm Jitu Patel from Box. Two-part question for you. One is, if you think about fully autonomous vehicles, which have passed through regulatory approvals, have passed through in-city driving and traffic conditions, how far do you think from a time frame perspective we are for that becoming reality? And number two would be, the second part of that question is, how long before you think it's either illegal or extremely prohibitively expensive for humans to drive on the road?
Well, I really would consider autonomous driving to be basically a solved problem.
Even in cities like Beijing and
Yeah. Actually, there's really only one area where it's like a little dodgy, and that's basically if you're at roughly the 30 to 40 miles an hour in urban environments, that's difficult to achieve in Beijing. It's like heavy traffic. In dense traffic situations, autonomy is really easy because you can just maintain a set distance from various cars. It's actually quite easy. You're very unlikely to run anyone over because you're just not moving fast enough and you can brake in time. On highways, particularly highways that are that have barriers, so that you don't have pedestrians, that's also relatively easy. And like a Model S and Model X at this point can drive autonomously with greater safety than a person right now.
My point is, when does it get to be where you don't need to be sitting behind the vehicle and actually the way that society starts expecting this is, I can have my 75-year-old mother who doesn't speak any English, who doesn't drive, be able to be transported from point A to point B by just sitting in a car by herself and being taken. I know it's technically possible, but how far do you think the regulatory approvals are for that happening?
I think we're basically less than 2 years away from complete autonomy.
Wow.
Complete. Safer than a human. However, regulators will take, I think, at least another year, and because it's going to depend on what part of the world you're in, because they will want to see billions of miles of data to show that it is statistically true that there is a substantial improvement in safety if something's autonomous versus not autonomous. I don't think that regulators will accept something that's close to, that's sort of approximately as good as a person. I think they'll have to be at least twice as good as a person, maybe 5 or 10 times better in terms of safety. And that will have to be a statistically relevant data set. So like billions of miles over widely differing roads and situations. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's like probably 3 years before it's approved from a regulatory standpoint, but less than 2 before it is technically possible.
And do you think there's a day when it's illegal to drive for humans, or?
So, what do you think? So the paradigm of transportation is changing. And that's the reason I brought that was to really show you how quickly this world is evolving as it relates, and how we have to think of transit as an organism. That we have to be open-minded to a lot of different options. And I think what HART has been doing with the opportunities with Red Bus, with trying to look at the first and last mile problem, are fundamental issues that transit has been grappling with since the beginning of transit. How do I get somebody from their home to the bus stop, from the bus stop to their place of business? Because oftentimes, when we're dealing with people or packages, the first and last mile is oftentimes more expensive in time, energy, and effort than the rest of the trip. And so this type of innovation, when you think about Uber and Lyft without a driver in the vehicle, and I can provide you that transportation for 40 or 50 cents a mile, that's cheaper than I've ever been able to provide human transportation in the history of time. And I can provide your vehicle, so you don't need to own a car. I can provide your insurance, I can provide your electricity, I can clean and maintain that car, all inside that 40 or 50 cents a mile. That's the world we're emerging into. And anytime we talk about transit options or transportation options in the future, we have to understand that this is going to be bigger than the smartphone. That this is going to change our cities because we're going to recapture all these parking garages. And they're going to become usable portions of our downtown. When we're talking about road infrastructure and bridges that we're going to build, we need to think about this technology has the opportunity to double or triple capacity of existing infrastructure today. The infrastructure that exists today. And so when you think about the future, I think you got to think about it's 4 things. It's electric. There's absolutely Tesla's going to have 30 competitors here shortly, and they're all going to be in the electric space. And so it's moving to the electric world. It's autonomous. All right? It's on demand and it's shared. And so when we think about the future of transportation, we have to think about all of those different aspects. And as a policymaker and as somebody who watches the budget, I can tell you, thinking about autonomous vehicles and electric vehicles coming online at the same time is really interesting, but electric vehicles create their own set of challenges. The number one way we continue to fund transportation is through the gas tax. Well, electric vehicles don't pay the gas tax. And so how do we make this transition at the same time that we're working on all of these other challenges? How do we transition to a new model? And what does that new model look like? Now, I don't think we're going to get rid of the gas tax overnight. I think ultimately that we're going to run in parallel tracks with the gas tax. But the interesting thing about the gas tax is it's incredibly cheap to collect. I mean, it costs us almost nothing to collect that. Versus if we're monitoring each vehicle and trying to collect individual taxes, that doesn't seem like that's going to work. And so we have to rethink our model of funding transportation down the road. And so if you think about electric vehicles coming online, fuel efficiency is going much higher. By 2025, you're going to see radically more fuel efficient vehicles. I think it shows you both the challenges and the opportunities that we face in the space. It's exciting to watch. We have a lot of conversations about what the future of transportation is going to be like in this community, and I'm honored to play a part of it. I'm concerned about some of the areas that we dive into. A lot of people I feel like if we're not talking about trains, we're not talking about transit. And I think to the extent that we can continue to have a conversation that focuses on maximizing our options because we don't know what the future holds, then we're going to rest coming back to bus rapid transit as the main way we can get around this community in a meaningful way. And having the dollars that we need to invest in a system that's large enough to make a meaningful impact. So with that, thank you so much for letting me share a little bit. Hopefully we'll take some questions later on. But I'm here to introduce Community Leader Jeff Finnick.